Welcome to the dark side. I'm JVL with AB Stoddard of the Bulwark. We're going to let JD Vance, the senator, the gentleman from the great state of Ohio, have the first word.
So you're not troubled by the sexual assault and defamation. Let me ask you about January 6th. You've been mentioned as a possible vice president for Donald Trump. Had you been vice president on January 6th, would you have certified the election results?
Oh, George, this is such a ridiculous question, in part because the law has changed here. We, of course, had
well, I didn't ask you about going forward. I asked you what you would have done. I asked you what you would have done.
George, here's what I think. Here's what I think happened in 2020. And I know you guys are obsessed with talking about this. I have to make a point here. You constantly say to people like me, why do you talk about January the 6th? Why do you talk about the election of 2020? And then you ask about us multiple times during a 6-minute interview. But look, you asked the question and I'll answer it. Do I think there were problems in 2020? Yes, I do. Do I think it was a problem that big technology companies working with the intelligence services censored the presidential campaign of Donald Trump? Yes. Do I think it's a problem that Pennsylvania changed its balloting rules in the middle of the election season in a way that even some courts in Pennsylvania have said was illegal? Yes, I think these were problems, George, and I think there is a political solution to those problems. So litigating which slate of electors was legitimate, I think is fundamentally the political solution to the problems that existed in 2020. It's a reasonable debate to have, and I find it weird, George, that people like you obsessed with what I call what happened in 2020. You're so incurious about what actually happened in 2020, which is why so many people mistrust our elections in this country. We've got to do better, George.
I'm not the least bit incurious. In fact, you laid out a litany there, but you didn't answer the question I asked. Would you have certified the election results had you been vice president?
If I had been vice president, I would have told the states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and so many others that we needed to have multiple slates of electors, and I think the U.S. Congress should have fought over it from there. That is the legitimate way to deal with an election that a lot of folks, including me, think had a lot of problems in 2020. I think that's what we should have done.
So it's very clear you would have done what Donald Trump asked you to do there, not what Vice President Mike Pence did.
He just said it. He just ate the whole wheel of cheese. I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. There's a lot to unpack in that. Shortly after that exchange, JD went on to explain why it was perfectly proper for a president to ignore a ruling from the Supreme Court of the United States. And this is the future. It's not like, some guy on Gateway Pundit said, or some dude on Twitter tweeted out. Like, this is a United States senator who is at the very, very front rank of his party, but is not as an extremist and is under consideration for vice president. And his view is autocracy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any other way to say it. AB, what are your thoughts?
We have to. This is a dark side today, JVL. I'm upset about a lot of things, but this is so chilling. I'm going to quote him again. We needed to have multiple slates of electors. And then I think the Congress should have fought over it from there. The election should be decided by the House. And he goes on to say that is the legitimate way to deal with an election that a lot of folks, including me, think had a lot of problems in 2020, which indicates that going forward, whatever he and Trump want to complain about, it was rigged in Fulton County again. It was stolen in Michigan. It was whatever they come up with this fall, we are going to be told that the legitimate way to deal with this, because of their concerns, again, not some guy in Gateway Pundit, a United States senator who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, and a once president who also swore one to see that the laws were faithfully executed, are going to tell us something in Detroit. And they're going to then go out and tell Americans this is the legitimate way. We need multiple slates of electors. Now, the reason I'm screaming is because there are people that we cannot reach, JVL, over this. There are people that will listen to him at an Ohio State game and believe that that's the way the Constitution works, that somewhere in there on page 27, it says multiple slates if Trump feels like it. But the reason this is so critical that we have this conversation now and repeatedly is that there are people who know better and they're being quiet. And then they're obviously elite Republicans and office holders, Chamber of Commerce types and everything. But then there are voters who know this is an incitement and that this is reckless and dangerous. And this is the point that has to be made with them over and over again, that they are promising us a crisis, a constitutional crisis, and possibly blood in the streets. It's what they're promising.
JD Vance is one of those people who knows better.
100%.
JD Vance knows better. He knows this is like Elise Stefanik a couple weeks ago when she was on with Meet the Press with Kristen Welker saying that she would not necessarily vote to certify the 2024 election. These people all know better, and I gotta say, I look at this and I think to myself, good on them for saying it, because nobody can walk into the ballot box in November and not say that they didn't understand what was coming, right? It's not like this was a secret plot and, how could we possibly have known? President Trump was just promising us rainbows and puppy dogs, right? It's all very out in the open. And yet, some people are going to claim either that how could we possibly have known? I only care about kitchen table issues. How could I know what a public official says somewhere? Because I can't possibly pay as much attention to the state of political life in America as I do to my fantasy football league, right? And I'm a good American. Bum, bum, bum. And
they're going to have an excuse, right? They were too busy in their lives. Does Senator John Cornyn, who was a judge before he was a U.S. Senator and became a member of leadership, is he concerned? Is he going to come out and say, well, I heard what my colleagues said, and I heard what Elise Stefanik said a few weeks ago when she said only if it's legal and constitutional, which of course is in the eye of the beholder, the eye of the MAGA beholder.
Right.
Is he going to come out and say, we don't want another January 6th. Let's stop all this confusion right now and not talk that way? No, he's not going to say a thing.
We're in a terrifying place as a country. This is, it is a little weird to every week be setting our hair on fire about this, but also every week there's another example of it.
Yeah.
It keeps coming and coming because people want here. This is a thesis that I have. I have a thesis which I'm not entirely sure of. So this is really, I'm open for debate.
Throw it out there.
People in America, not only do they no longer perceive reality the way they used to, and you can look at this. So if you look at presidential approval polling, the bipartisan, you break it out by partisan ID, and what you see is there's a big gap between how people think about the president based on whether the president is in their party or not. Now, over time, that gap has gotten bigger, and that's one change. But when people talk about partisanship increasing, what they mean is that the magnitude of gap between Democrats and Republicans on these questions has gotten larger. But the other thing that's changed is that those I'm going to do graphical math for you on YouTube here. The partisans moved in the same directions prior to Barack Obama, meaning that irrespective of who was in the White House, if people thought things were getting better, then both Republicans and Democrats, their approval of the president got better at the same time, and it went down at the same time. And then that broke out under Obama. And under Obama, you started having Democrats saying, yes, we think things are getting better, so we approve of the president more. And Republicans saying, we think things are getting worse and we approve of the president less. That continued under Trump. It has continued under Biden. I think that's a breakdown in a very serious one. But also I think what people want is different. I think if you had gone around talking about terminating the Constitution 40 years ago, 20 years ago, people would have freaked out. And today, people are there for it. Yeah. I just think, in a way that once upon a time, people in America were really down for socialism, and now they're not. people didn't used to be really down for authoritarianism, but there's a pretty big chunk of American society now which is open to it.
Yeah, and I think that the what you talked about this, I think on the next level last week. I mean, we just have to, at some point, right, just accept that there are Americans, as you mentioned, who that we're most concerned about the ones who are not partisans, who are saying it's just too chaotic. We need a strong man, right? We know that Trump's base wants to hold minority power forever and inflict it on the majority and break open all the guardrails and no longer have a system of rules, make their own and live in an autocracy. But it's the ones that decide the elections who are increasingly, and young voters who increasingly in polling show that they've just given up. The system seems to not be working so well. So they just want someone to come in and fix things up. It's too chaotic for them. The more they disengage, the more we increase the likelihood that that's what we're going to have, because people find it just all so off-putting. This is the swing voter who is not politically addicted, who's not paying, close attention to this. And increasingly those people find it also distasteful that they're saying we all these checks and balances in the Congress, it's a little much, right? Can't we just have a president get in there and kind of clean things up? And that's the danger. That's the slippery slope. Is not just that it's not the zealots, right? It's the ones who are just getting too tired and think democracy is just not working so well. So, what the hell? Let's just, blow it up, see what happens.
To your point, we had a poll this weekend from NBC News. This poll showed Trump beating Biden by 5 overall. That's not the part that freaked me out. What freaked me out were there was a bunch of issue polling on it. And in terms of dealing with the economy, voters prefer Trump by 22 points. I will remind people that when Donald Trump left office, we were in the midst of an absolute economic calamity. Unemployment was like 7% and GDP growth was negative and people had lost their jobs and were losing their houses. And we are now living in a world of 3.7% unemployment and a 37% increase adjusted for inflation in the household wealth of the median family in America. And yet people say that Donald Trump really had that economy. Dealing with crime and violence, they prefer Trump by 21 points. Again, the murder spike in America began in 2020 under Donald Trump, and under Joe Biden is now going backwards. Okay? Being competent and effective, they prefer Trump by 16 points. Donald Trump passed a tax cut and then nothing else. Joe Biden has passed a half dozen, maybe more than that, major pieces of bipartisan legislation. Okay, fine. Improving America's standing in the world. They favor Trump by plus 11.
I mean, come on.
It goes to 11. And the guy who was laughed at while he went around writing love letters to Kim Jong-un. And on protecting democracy, they see Trump and Biden as being about tied. One guy attempted a coup. The other guy won the most votes of anybody who's ever run for president. And so samesies. AB, why should we not all be unbelievably freaked out about this?
So I am, because for me, I continue to believe that the electorate has written Joe Biden off because of his age. Having the necessary mental and physical health to be president, he's minus 23 to Donald Trump, who's less than 4 years younger than him. So,
and also is 1,000% crazier.
Exactly. And getting crazier all the time. And it's like talking like a drunk man, even though we know he doesn't drink. Competent and effective, having a 16-point edge over Joe Biden for competent and effective for Donald Trump is, again, speaking, I think, more to Joe Biden's age than even what I just described, which is this kind of give up, apathy, government doesn't work so well, so whoever is in office is ineffective, and I'm mad at them. That's the number that really scares me, is that we talk all the time about Joe Biden's record set of accomplishments across the board, having not even approaching the economy. And then the economy is undoubtedly, inarguably, you cannot fight it, in fabulous shape. We have averted a recession. Everything they said wasn't going to happen. Trump promised that Wall Street would tank under Biden. And now that it's doing well, he's pretending that it's because Wall Street thinks he's coming back. The whole economy thing is a joke. And I really believe that voters are still answering pollsters on price hikes. I mean, I still think that's inflation. But what I'm so worried about, what my hair is on fire about, is the competent and effective and having the necessary mental and physical health to be president, because I believe that Joe Biden is not heard on any of the issues once he is disqualified by the voters on his age. And a lot of the people are telling us not to wet our beds, JVL, about this poll because it oversampled the people that would support Trump and on and on and on. But these polls, I know everyone got excited last week because there were some national polls that were good for Joe Biden, but we have to remind everybody about national polls. So I'll let you talk about that. It's just no reason to be dancing in the streets.
There was one good one for Biden last week and that came on the heels of the really bad state levels, swing state polls from Morning Consult. Look, I'm with you. When people tell me, polls don't matter, it drives me crazy because they do matter because they provide the best. Otherwise, you're just doing everything by dead reckoning.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you need, are polls perfect? No. Do they have lots of error? Are they noisy? Yes. The further out you get from an election, do they lose predictive power? Yes. But also they do give you a sense of what the world looks like around you. And to say, well, I'm just not going to look at the polls seems to me to be crazy. And a thing that you only do when your side is not doing so great. It's a form of copium. And I look at these numbers, AB, and I think to myself, does no one remember that this guy stood up in front of reporters like every day for weeks on end and said, there is no China flu. There is no pandemic. President Xi is so smart. He's doing a great job. If we don't test, then we don't have any cases. I have heard that if you inject bleach or shine ultraviolet rays inside the body, that takes care of a lot of it. That's what this guy is. And we all saw it.
Yeah.
And this wasn't 20 years ago. It's not like we're digging up, I have footage of him dancing with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, but that was 25 years ago. We do have footage of him dancing with Jeffrey Epstein. These things happened 5 minutes ago, and we all saw it. And if voters can't, here's where I'm sublime. I floated this on the next level.
I'll
try it out on you.
I agree.
If Joe Biden was Jimmy Carter, then I would be pretty freaked out. I think to myself, holy crap, Americans are sleepwalking into fascism just because the economy's bad. But that's not what's going on.
No.
Joe Biden, one of the most effective presidents of my lifetime, both domestically and in foreign policy. And if people and they saw the full Donald Trump, right? It isn't like Trump got lucky and he skated away and, all the guardrails around him held and people didn't really see how crazy he was. No, we saw all of that. 1 million Americans died. 1 million Americans died from COVID. And if people look at that and be like, I want to try the fun guy again. Okay. That's who we are.
I feel the same way. At some point, it is who we are. And there's really nothing we can do to be persuasive about that. I look back on COVID. COVID is especially traumatizing to me because while people give him a pass on the economy and other things because of COVID, he gets the COVID pass. Like, it was unfair that COVID came on his watch, but the idea that he had means to mitigate the effects, to prevent, to mitigate, to lessen the damage, all of that, to not tweet 15 laudatory tweets about President Xi, to not protect him, to not tell Bob Woodward on February 7th that it was definitely going to be really super horrible. It was airborne, while he lied to us for another 2 months and didn't let us test ourselves. I mean, that's the part that I can't wrap my head around because everybody had to pay attention to COVID. No one has to pay attention to what JD Vance says on a morning show on a Sunday. Like, the average American's just not going to know about that. But this was central to their existence for months and months and months. And they know it, and they're like ready to roll again. It's that is COVID to me is the most triggering of all of the mania that we experienced with Donald Trump and all the danger that we were in. And I'm with you. I am there is a point at which people, what's so fascinating too, is in the polling, JVL, when they say, oh, I'm totally down for him again. But if he's convicted of a felony, I'm not going to. I don't trust that polling at all.
That seems weird.
Because they're welcoming him in all the key swing states, which is, by the way, viewers, where this election is decided, not in national polls, where a few New Yorkers have warmed back to Joe Biden. Like, that doesn't matter. So as long as we see the electorate embracing him in swing states, but then saying like, oh no, if he crosses that line after all the lines he's crossed,
you want my darkest take? You want my darkest take, AB?
Yeah.
The lie in those polls is actually that those people will totally vote for him even if he's convicted. The idea that a conviction on something like classified documents is going to be what puts them over the edge when there is a coup.
Yeah.
A coup. And they don't care about that.
There's never been a red line, but they're going to find one.
Yeah. I don't believe that at all.
I don't either. I wanted to. I was trying to. I was there. It was giving me comfort. But I can't look at the NBC poll and then buy that. I can't.
The border bill. Joe Biden doing more presidenting, trying to send $60 billion of aid to Ukraine and huge billions of dollars of aid to Israel and even $10 billion of humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. And the Republicans, who were super in favor of funding Ukraine until Trump was against it, then said no and decided to hold this aid hostage. And so Biden said, all right, you guys want to do border stuff? Whatever you want to, just you write it. I'll sign it, whatever it is. And he got another bipartisan deal done in the Senate.
Yeah.
Only for Trump to tell MAGA Mike in the House, no, make sure you guys don't pass that bill. I want to be, and it's going to work. It's going to work.
Yeah. No, this made me so sad last night. I saw Johnson, backing away over the weekend, and then they do this Sunday night dump. It's official. It's bipartisan. They've gotten it over the line. They've got the White House, as you said, who've said, take everything, literally take everything. Give us nothing. And you have McConnell in there, and it's like, go team, go. Schumer says the most he's ever worked with McConnell. And it's like everything we ask for out of government to solve problems and work together. And I just want to say that Senator James Lankford has literally destroyed his career over this. He has been willing to end his career for this. And he's going out there and being really brave, saying, I don't really want people telling me they're opposed to it when they've been reading Facebook posts overnight. Like, he's, God love him. But this is just horrible. As the White House tweeted, that Republicans are pretending they're not going to take 100 cutting-edge inspection machines to detect fentanyl, 1,500 new USC BP personnel, immigration and customs enforcement personnel, more detention, deportation. I mean, this is, it just puts the lie to them and their ridiculous ruse that they needed this in exchange for Ukraine, which they were never going to support. And it's absolutely outrageous. And it really, really, I just got like more sad than I expected to. I never expected all the bipartisan cooperation between Republican senators and Democrats in this administration. It's been incredible and historic and consequential. It has made meaningful difference in people's lives and in the economy. We've talked about that before, and in nice wage jobs for people who are never going to vote for Joe Biden, and they didn't in 2020. And this idea that we would be able to take care of something that's so critical, like the chaos of the border, let alone the fact that we have to defend Ukraine. And the idea of giving that gift to Putin, that is acceptable to the Republicans now in a way that they wouldn't have admitted 4 weeks ago. I mean, really come out and just flat out oppose it is so terrifying. And just, I don't know. It just bummed me out so much more than I expected it to.
So it's bad that Republicans would do it, but it's worse that Republicans get to do it for free without paying any political price.
Yeah.
And that is, once again, on the voters, right?
Yeah.
These people live in America. They're awake. They see newspapers. They see television. They see Facebook, right? And they are not going to look at this and say, that seems bad. We ought to vote against those people. They're not going to do that.
I don't think so. I don't. I saw Senator Schatz tweeted today that he thought that was going to be tangible in the suburbs, that was going to be translatable, that it was going to be easy for Democrats and the White House to say, this is what we put on the table. We need to fix now. And that the Republicans saying no was going to create a backlash. But I'm with you. They're going to say, this is America last. We can't send that much money to Ukraine and still let anyone over the border, farm workers or whoever. It's still just, an open door. You've seen everything that they've been tweeting all. It's atrocious. It's a total amnesty. And they're just lying about the bill. They're going to keep lying about the bill. And just like you, I think they're going to get away with it.
We don't have a Donald Trump problem in America. I saw somebody tweet out today that, these people on both the left and the right who are standing up institutions in reaction to Donald Trump, once he's gone, they won't even believe how fast things snap back to normal.
Hell no.
We don't have a Donald Trump problem. We have an American people problem. And the American people want some stuff which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I don't mean bad like policies that you and I don't like. I mean bad like they want stuff that's illiberal and that had been off the table in American politics since Jim Crow. So,
and that is just, the idea, people getting excited about Tucker interviewing Putin, the idea that any of this is not only not dismissed and rejected, but out there and sort of, acceptable and then celebrated is just beyond comprehension. It is, they're openly fighting democracy at home and abroad. They are openly overseas going to let Putin have his way in Europe, and they're fine with that. And then at home, they're saying things like, Elise Stefanik wants you to know that she'll tell you when an election is constitutional, in her opinion. And that's the only one that we can have. Sorry. And that's because it's tolerated. That's because the electorate is tolerating that. And once we end the experiment, we don't get it back. That's the problem, is people think that we can try on something, a new ism for a few minutes, and then no.
How has that worked out historically?
Right.
Yeah. All right, AB, thanks as always. It's great.
It's so great.
Good luck, America.